AITA for kicking my sister out after she came out in a towel to test my boyfriend's loyalty, told me I should thank her, and then rally my mom and cousins to guilt trip me for choosing a man over family when I enforce my house rules. My 24F, have been with my boyfriend, Ryan, 26M, for just shy of 2 years. Ryan is a paradox in all the ways that matter. Soft-spoken without being soft, accommodating without being a doormat, emotionally available without spilling into codependence. I used to think good boundaries meant coldness. Ryan taught me it just means clarity. As someone who grew up in a family where boundaries blurred like watercolor in a thunderstorm, his steadiness felt like the first time a teacher finally handed me a ruler. My sister Lena, 20F, is a different force of nature. She's the kind of gorgeous that makes strangers forgive her for cutting in line. She's charismatic and kinetic. She makes people feel like a stage spotlight just swung in their direction, and for a second, they are electric. I do not have this power. I am not invisible, exactly, but next to Lena, I learned to minimize, to organize, to be useful. If attention were a finite resource, I told myself early on, I should be grateful to have even the scraps. Our childhood household ran on 3 axioms. 1. Family is forever. 2. You don't turn your back on blood. 3. Forgiveness is the rent you pay for belonging. You can imagine what that does when one sibling is habitually thoughtless and the other is habitually accommodating. There's a groove we all fell into. Lena shines, I cushion. Lena takes, I tidy. Lena apologizes with a joke, I accept with a smile. A month ago, Lena called me late. Her voice was wobbly, the fragile kind of brave where you can hear the mascara drying in clumps. She had broken up with her boyfriend, or he broke up with her. It changed depending on which part of the story she was telling. She needed a few weeks to get her feet under her. Could she stay with me and Ryan? She promised to be low impact, which is the Lena equivalent of saying a hurricane will be breezy. Ryan and I share a 1-bedroom apartment with a generous living room and an eat-in kitchen. We keep it tidy. Clutter makes my brain hum at a frequency that turns kindness to sand. Ryan looked at me while I was on the phone with Lena, raised his eyebrows, and mouthed, "Your call." Later he said, "We can do it. 2 rules. Respect the space, and it's temporary." I love them for making it so simple. We drafted a text together for Lena. Yes, for 3 to 4 weeks. We'll set up the couch and a dresser drawer. Please treat it as a short-term landing, not a sublet. She responded with 6 heart emojis and a gif of someone carrying too many shopping bags. Moving day was a collage of contradictions. Lena arrived in leggings and an oversized hoodie that made her look younger and smaller than she is. Her trunk held 2 suitcases, a ring light, and a houseplant she called Fernadette like it was a pet. She kissed my cheek, kissed Ryan's cheek, too close to the mouth for my taste. I told myself it was European and stepped inside like she was entering a boutique hotel. She marveled at our coffee setup, took photos of our spice rack, and asked if the bath towels were just for display because they were rolled so neatly. The first night was almost nice. We made pasta. Ryan opened a cheap red and aerated it like an alchemist. Lena described her breakup like a screenplay with alternating unreliable narrators. He said, "I'm exhausting, but we were in love. So sorry for wanting a little passion." I laughed at the right places because that's what you do when your sister's chest is a suitcase with something broken inside. After dinner, Lena offered to do the dishes and then didn't. I did them and didn't say anything because some grooves have muscle memory. Before bed, Ryan and I reviewed the plan like co-managers of tiny nonprofit. Bathroom schedules, laundry days, fridge zones, the importance of not slamming cabinets after midnight because they thump like drums in our old building. Ryan said, "We're a team. If anything feels off, we name it early." It sounded so adult, so possible. For the first few days, we were all polite. Lena took long showers and sang, beautifully, infuriatingly, like the apartment was a rehearsal studio. She bought a giant bottle of pink body wash that made the bathroom smell like a candy store. She borrowed my slippers and left them in surprising places, like little breadcrumb clues that she existed everywhere. She posted an Instagram story of herself on our couch with the caption, "Healing Era," then added a song that could make a stone weep. She also Venmo'd me $50 with the eggplant emoji, which I still don't understand, but I appreciated the gesture. On the 4th day, Lena asked if she could host 2 girls for a totally chill wine night. Ryan and I traded looks above her head like synchronized swimmers. I said, "Not this week. We're still adjusting." She pouted like a cartoon character learning about taxes, then relented. That night, she did an at-home facial and asked Ryan if he thought she should go blonde or mushroom brown next. He chuckled and said, "I'm not reliable on hair colors." She said, "You're Mr. Perfect. You're reliable on everything." The nickname snagged me like a hangnail I couldn't stop poking. Nothing catastrophic happened that first week. Nothing you could put in a list and slam down and declare, "See, here is the crime." But the air felt charged, a fraction off. Ryan was kind and distant. Lena was charming and everywhere. I was a conductor trying to keep tempo with 2 different orchestras in my head. The rules were still on the fridge in my handwriting. Respect the space. Temporary. I read them like a prayer. I told myself, see, you set boundaries. Look at you being adult. Look at you not dissolving. If the story had ended there, I wouldn't be writing this. But stories don't end just because you worked hard on the rules. Sometimes they end because someone decides rules are a game they're clever enough to win. They're the specific way small things stack until they sound like thunder. It isn't always the crash. Sometimes it's the steady, insistent drip that rots the ceiling. By the second week, Mr. Perfect wasn't a one-off joke. It was a bit. Lena used it like punctuation. Mr. Perfect, can you open this? Mr. Perfect, guess my Starbucks order. Mr. Perfect, teach me your omelet technique. Each time, Ryan smiled his default polite smile. The one that, if you don't know him, looks like complicity, but is just him being conflict-averse in company. He would later tell me that every use of the nickname made his shoulders tighten a millimeter. The clothes got smaller too. I want to be precise here, because clothing is a minefield of judgment and projection. I do not believe women owe modesty to protect men's feelings. I do not think leggings are a cry for attention. But we live in a one-bedroom apartment. Choices land differently in a shared domestic space than they do in a beach photo. Lena began orbiting the apartment in tiny shorts that could have passed for underwear and tops that did not bother with sleeves. She would stretch on the living room floor with her phone propped on a water bottle, filming time-lapse of workouts that involve a lot of glute bridges facing the couch. Content, she'd say with a grin. I'm in my rebuilding arc. Ryan is not blind. He is also not a creep. I watched him develop new routes through our space, like a person learning to skirt around a construction site on their commute. He began spending a suspicious amount of time refilling the Brita. He learned the exact minutes Lena's showers ran and timed his toothbrushing for the gaps. He complimented the weather with desperate interest. When I asked him if he was okay, he said, I don't want to make it your problem. But yes, it's not ideal. I tried to intervene gently. I suggested to Lena that maybe we could all be a little more mindful of shared space attire, like pajamas that cover your butt. I joked. She laughed too loud and said, You're so Victorian. It's just skin. I said, True, but also, it's our living room. She rolled her eyes and hugged me from the side like she was appeasing a toddler in a tutu. Fine, Mom, she said. I'll wear a bathrobe to the kitchen. Wouldn't want Mr. Perfect to see an elbow. If it were only the clothes, I might have swallowed it. But it was the choreography. How she would find reasons to cross Ryan's personal space bubble. How she'd touch his arm when he was clearly not the arm-touching with strangers type. How she once leaned over him to grab a remote on the coffee table when she could have walked around. How she discovered his favorite comedian and started quoting bits, timing her laughs to his. How she tried on my hoodie, and said, Does Mr. Perfect like you in this color? In a voice that was both innocent and weaponized. I spoke to Ryan again. We sat on the floor of our bedroom, backs to the bed like we were hiding from tornado. I need you to be honest with me, I said. Is any part of this my paranoia? He took both my hands. You're not paranoid. Your sister is performing at me. I'm not participating. But I hate that you have to be the one to say something because I'm your partner and it puts you in the line of fire. I decided to have the conversation with Lena directly. No jokes. No apologies for having preferences inside my own home. I rehearsed it in the shower. Firm but not cruel, specific but not accusatory. When Lena came back from a run, flushed and high on endorphins, I asked if we could talk. Could we dial back the Mr. Perfect thing and maybe keep a little more coverage in common spaces? I said, Ryan has said he's uncomfortable, and I am too. Also, the touching? Please don't touch him. Lena's smile hardened a degree. Wow, she said. You really think I'm trying to seduce your boyfriend? I think regardless of intention, the effect is uncomfortable, I said. So let's adjust. She sighed dramatically, the kind of sigh that has 5 syllables. You're paranoid, she said. I'm your sister, not a homewrecker. I'm being friendly because your boyfriend is uptight, and you both take yourselves too seriously. I could feel the grooves in the kitchen floor then, the ones we always fall into. Lena minimizing, me accommodating. I felt the tug to say, You're right, I'm overreacting, let's order sushi. Instead I said, Be friendly without touching and without the nickname. She muttered, Whatever, and swanned away, which is Lena's version of détente. I allowed myself a breath of victory that tasted like dust. For 2 days, things were quiet. Lena wore a robe over her shorts in the hallway. She called Ryan sir in a fake butler voice that made him giggle. She did not touch him. I thought, maybe we turn a corner. Then, on the 3rd night, she bent over to pick up a spoon she dropped directly in front of Ryan while he was seated on the couch, like a magician feinting a trick. He stood abruptly, said he had to check the laundry. We were not doing laundry, and hid in our room. Later he said, I'm trying not to make it a bigger thing, but I am at my absolute maximum for this. I told myself we'd make it through the week, and then we'd reassess. I told myself the groove wasn't a destiny. I told myself I could be the person who didn't let it slide. And then the towel incident happened, and I stopped telling myself anything at all. It was a Tuesday. I remember because we eat tacos on Tuesdays, not out of devotion to theme, but because our grocery budget likes predictability. I had a late shift that day. Ryan worked from home and then went to the gym. Lena had a content day, which means dragging furniture to different corners of the apartment to chase natural light. By sunset, I was still at the office, squinting at my screen while my stomach rehearsed the taco menu. When I finally got home, the apartment was too quiet. Ryan is a quiet person, but he is not a still person. He hums, he opens and closes things, he narrates the sitcom in his head. That night, the air felt dialed down to a hush. He was at the kitchen table, hands cupped around a mug he was not drinking. His face had that particular pale of someone who has just gotten off a roller coaster and insisted they were fine. "What happened?" I asked. He looked at me for a beat, like he was making sure I was real. "Lena," he said. She came out of the shower in just a towel, sat down next to me on the couch, asked if I was ever curious what it would be like to be with someone more fun. The sentence rearranged the furniture in my skull. I felt anger in the primal, embarrassing way, like my blood had opinions and none of them could be said in polite company. "What did you do?" I asked, though part of me already knew because Ryan is Ryan. I said that was wildly inappropriate, that I love you, and that I was going to our room. Then I did that. He nodded toward the closed bedroom door, which looked saintly for being so solid. I breathed out through my teeth. There's a kind of clarity that comes when the drip finally punches through the ceiling and the water just pours. I walked down the hallway and knocked on the bathroom door. "Lena," I said, "we need to talk." She opened the door in pajamas, hair wrapped in a towel turban. She looked dewy and unbothered, like a commercial for hydrating sheet masks. "What's up?" she said. "Don't play dumb," I said. "You came out in a towel and hit on Ryan." She blinked. Then she did something that to this day, I can't think about without wanting to slam a fist into a pillow. She smirked. "Relax," she said. "I was testing him. You should be thanking me. Now you know he's loyal." There are words for what that is: manipulation, boundary violation, the setup. But in the moment, the only word I had was no. I said it like I was stepping on the brakes. "No, pack your stuff. You're leaving." Her mouth fell open like I'd yanked a tablecloth and the dishes went with it. "You're kicking me out?" "Over a joke. You called it a test," I said. "It was a violation. You disrespected me and my partner in my home. You don't get to stay here." She started to cry then. Not big gulps of grief, but the controlled, photogenic tears of someone who has had a ring light on them for many nights in a row. "I have nowhere to go," she said. "You're choosing a guy over your sister?" "I'm choosing the boundary I told you about on day one," I said. "Respect the space. Temporary. You broke the first and accelerated the second." She screamed then, a full-bodied sound that made our neighbor thump the ceiling with a broom handle. Words spilled out in a slurry. Jealous, controlling, prude, brainwashed. I stood there like a tree in a storm and let them hit. Then I said, evenly, "You have 2 hours. I will call you an Uber to wherever you want. You can pick up anything you forget this weekend with Dad here. You are not staying here tonight." She slammed the bathroom door. She took a long time to get dressed. She texted our family group chat a version of events where I was a cold-hearted villain who banished her for making a joke. She included a selfie of her puffy eyes, because of course she did. Ryan hugged me in the hallway while she packed. He smelled like laundry detergent and adrenaline. "I'm sorry," he said, which is what good men say when they wish they could absorb your hurt. "I hate that this is happening." I told him it wasn't his fault. He said he knew, and also he didn't, and both were true. I ordered the Uber. Lena clattered out with 2 suitcases and Fernadette, the plant. She paused in the doorway and said, "You're going to regret this when he cheats on you with someone interesting." I said, "Good night, Lena." She stomped down the stairs. When the door clicked shut, the apartment exhaled. I sat on the floor and cried not because I doubted myself, but because my body needed to drain the flood. Ryan sat beside me and held my hand. He said, very quietly, "Thank you for choosing us." And that's when I knew the choice had been right, even if it broke something that would not be easily repaired. My phone pinged. "Mom, honey, what's going on?" "Lena says you kicked her out into the night." Another ping. "Dad, what did she do?" Another. "My brother. Tell me you finally drew a line." Another. From a cousin with a flair for drama. Family forgives. I stared at the screen and realized I was about to have the same fight I have been having since I was old enough to carry other people's excuses. Except this time, I knew exactly where the line was drawn and who drew it. Family fights are never single issue. They are sedimentary rock, fresh conflict layered over years of silt and fossils. The text came in like weather alerts. Mom called first. I answered because I am an optimist with a masochism kink. "Sweetie," she began, a word that has prefaced every guilt trip of my life. "Lena says you threw her out when she was vulnerable. That doesn't sound like you." She propositioned Ryan in a towel, I said, and called it a test. There was a pause. "Well, that's inappropriate," Mom said, in the tone you use when a toddler says a bad word at Thanksgiving. But she's your sister. She needs you. She needed us to house her temporarily and respect our space. She did one and not the other. She has nowhere to go, Mom said. She has friends, I said, and I offered to Uber her to any of them. That's not the point, Mom said, which is a sentence that should come with a siren. Family is family. Family is not a hall pass, I said. I'm done subsidizing her bad behavior with my piece. Mom sighed. I think you're being harsh. Women test men all the time. It's silly, but stop, I said, sharper than I meant. Listen to what you're normalizing. She went quiet, wounded. You don't have to be disrespectful, she said. I'm on your side. No, I said gently, and then firmer. You're on the side of harmony at any cost. I'm on the side of boundaries. We got off the phone on a note that tasted bitter. 10 minutes later, Dad called. What happened? He asked, no preamble. I told him. He blew out a breath that rustled the receiver. Good, he said. I'll go get whatever she forgot on Saturday and drop it at Mom's. Don't let her back in. My brother texted a string of snake emojis and said, finally. A cousin wrote, she was just being playful. You're so uptight. Another cousin wrote privately, proud of you. Wish I could say this to her face. Families are not monoliths. They are ecosystems, some parts thriving, some invasive. Lena, meanwhile, began a campaign of emotional arson. She texted me that she was sleeping in her car, and if anything happened to her, it would be my fault. I stared at the message and felt the old reflex kick in. Fix it, absorb it, adjust yourself until everyone else is comfortable. Ryan took my phone gently and put it face down on the table. Her choices are not your debt, he said. She's a grown adult. She has options. I did not sleep well that night. I felt hung over with adrenaline. My brain played a double feature. Scenes of Lena in a towel and scenes of 12-year-old Lena crying because she lost her favorite bracelet and I gave her mine. Which Lena was the truer one? Both, I suppose. And that's the thing about boundaries. They're not declarations that someone is all bad. They're fences you build because love without fences is just weather. The next day, Lena posted an Instagram story from a friend's apartment, legs tucked under a knit blanket, caption safe. I felt fury and relief in the same breath. Fury that she had so easily weaponized my empathy. Relief that she was, in fact, not sleeping in a car. I did not respond. I put my phone in a drawer and went to make coffee. Ryan and I had the kind of breakfast conversation that doesn't feel like food. Did I overreact? I asked, is kicking her out a nuclear option? Ryan shook his head. Nuclear would have been me yelling at her. You handled it with more calm than I thought possible. You protected our home. You protected me from having to be the bad guy in your family's narrative. I will not forget that. We talked logistics. We agreed that Lena could pick up any remaining items on Saturday with Dad present, and that we would not be there. We agreed that any communication should be in writing because conversations with Lena have a way of shedding their skins after the fact. We agreed that we would not let the story shift into sisters fighting over a man, because the man in question was a prop in Lena's larger play about power and attention. Then I did something that felt both petty and holy. I cleaned our apartment. I laundered the blanket Lena had been cocooning herself with on the couch. I wiped down the counter where she'd set up her ring light to film skincare routines. I vacuumed the corners where Fernadette had shed her dry leaves. I reclaimed surfaces. I put away the rules on the fridge because they were carved in me now. Saturday came. Dad texted, here, and then 30 minutes later, done. He left a bag on our doorstep with things Lena had forgotten to pack. He'd taken others for her. He included a post-it in his blocky handwriting. Proud of you, Dad. I cried again because sometimes you cry when you're safe, not when you're in danger. Mom didn't speak to me for 2 days. When she called, she led with, I don't like how you spoke to me, which is classic Mom. Critiquing tone instead of content. I said, I don't like how you trivialized what Lena did. We moved slowly toward a middle where she didn't admit she was wrong, but agreed to drop the subject for now. Emotional diplomacy is a language I learned fluently as a child. I'm trying to teach myself new grammar. Lena texted twice that week. The first time to say, you ruined my life. The second to say, when you're ready to apologize, I'll consider forgiving you. I did not reply. Silence is not passive. Sometimes it is a boundary with its own architecture. I posted the skeleton of this story on Reddit. Not the 5-part saga you're reading now, but the short version, the kind that invites judgment from strangers. The overwhelming response was NTA. People called out the manipulation for what it was. They congratulated Ryan for shutting it down. They praised the way I said a clear, enforceable line. A few voices said, I should remember that family is family. I remember. I just think family can be family across a fence. At night, I would lie awake with Ryan's arm heavy across my waist and think about how our apartment had been a stage where Lena performed a role she'd been auditioning for since childhood. The girl who could take anything of mine and make it hers. I had finally refused to be her prop. The fallout was loud. The silence after was louder. but it was our silence, chosen and intact. Here's what love is not. A series of tests where the other person must dodge landmines you plant to satisfy your curiosity or your insecurity. Here's what love is. A choice you make every day to be on the same team. Not just when it's easy, not just when it earns you applause from the balcony seats, but when it means saying no. Not here, not in our home. 2 weeks after the towel incident, Lena asked to meet for coffee. She sent a text that could charitably be called neutral. If you want to clear the air, meet me at noon at Juno's. Ryan squeezed my hand and said, "Your call." My therapist, yes, I finally booked one. Being the family shock absorber that made me too competent at swallowing grenades, suggested that I go if I felt resourced enough to hold my boundary in public. You can end a conversation you don't like, she reminded me. You're allowed to leave. I arrived early and sat with my back to the wall like a cop in a diner. Lena swept in late and radiant, hair shiny, nails fresh. She hugged me like she hadn't almost detonated my life and said, "You look good." I said, "Thanks," because old grooves don't disappear overnight. She started with a greatest hits medley. It was a joke. It was a test. She was in a bad place. I should have been more supportive. Ryan is so uptight, some men like to be tested. If he were truly secure, he would have laughed. I let her talk until the battery in my compassion light blinked red. Then I said, "Here's what I need you to understand. The towel was not a test. It was a betrayal masquerading as a prank. You violated my relationship and my home. When confronted, you try to frame yourself as doing me a favor. That is not how this works." She scoffed. "Wow, someone's been practicing speeches." "I've been practicing boundaries," I said. "I'm willing to have a relationship with you if you can acknowledge what you did and commit to not doing it again. I am not willing to relapse into being your collateral damage." She stared at me for a long moment. Something flickered there, recognition, maybe, or calculation. Then came a pivot I knew too well. "I'm sorry you feel that way," she said, "but I guess we're just different. Apologies are not improv games. I'm sorry you feel that way is a magic trick that makes responsibility evaporate." I stood. "Okay," I said. "Then we don't have anything else to talk about right now. I wish you well." Her mouth tightened. "So you're really choosing him over me?" "I'm choosing self-respect," I said, "and he happens to be on that team." I left money for my coffee and walked out into daylight that felt like it belonged to me. In my pocket, my phone buzzed. A message from Ryan. "How are you?" I replied, "Free." He wrote back a heart. It looked nothing like the 6 hearts Lena had sent the month she moved in. It looked like home. Edit 1. Did Lena pay rent or contribute to utilities? No. We had an explicit agreement. A short-term landing, 3 to 4 weeks. During a crisis, no rent, but reasonable contributions like groceries and chores. She Venmo'd $50 once, which I appreciated, and then treated the agreement like a vibe instead of commitment. Did I ever provoke or compete with her? No. I did not try to make her jealous of my relationship. I do not own clothes that would win a duel with hers. I try to make the home gentle and predictable. Competing with Lena is like arm wrestling a hurricane. The hurricane always wins because the point isn't strength, it's spectacle. Why didn't Ryan confront Lena himself? He did, in his way. The towel night, he shut it down and removed himself. Earlier, he did not want to be the man who yells at his girlfriend's sister, and I respect that. This was my family dynamic to address. He followed my lead and reinforced the line when it counted. Was Lena drunk or impaired? No, she was clear-eyed and deliberate. The towel incident was not a stumble. It was choreography. Why not give her a second chance after the towel? Because grace without accountability is just permission. Edit 2. We're okay. Better than okay. Ryan and I have learned a new skill. We narrate small discomforts before they calcify into big ones. We've made our space ours again. The couch feels safe. The kitchen feels like food instead of performance. I sometimes light a candle for no reason except to mark the fact that the air is not charged with someone else's need. Lena is living with a friend from her gym. She posts thirst traps with inspirational captions and looks, as always, spectacular. She texted me last week a photo of Fernadette thriving on a windowsill and wrote, "She misses you." I wrote back, "Tell her I said hi. I'm not being petty. I am practicing a new religion. Small, true sentences. Mom and I are in cautious détente." She has stopped using "family is family" as punctuation. She asks about Ryan. She does not ask to bring Lena over when she visits. Dad and I talk more than we used to. He has started sending me links to articles about boundaries like a dad learning to use emojis. My brother says he's proud of me in a way that suggests he is also practicing new grammar. A cousin who had called me uptight sent me a voice note after her ex reappeared in her life with an apology shaped like a boomerang. "I get it now," she said, her voice small in my ear. "Boundaries don't make you hard. They make you real." Final update. I debated whether to write this, because sometimes updates feel like asking for a second round of applause. But internet strangers helped me hold my line when my hand shook, so here it is. Lena texted me a real apology. Not a perfect one, Apologies are mosaics, not miracles, but real. I'm sorry, she wrote. I disrespected you and Ryan. I was hurting and wanted to feel powerful, and I chose the cheapest path. I won't do that again. She did not say if, or but, or you made me. She said we met in a park. We sat on opposite ends of a bench like a before and after photo. She told me she'd started therapy. She cried from a place lower than her ring light reaches. She said, I don't know how to be loved without testing it. I said, me neither, sometimes. We laughed, not because it was funny, but because we recognized the inheritance. We agreed that if we were going to be in each other's lives, we would need new choreography. I am not naive. Lena is still Lena. I'm still me. But something has shifted. The groove is still in the floor, but we are both learning to step over it. Ryan met us afterward for ice cream. He shook Lena's hand like a treaty and said, I appreciate your message. She nodded and said, don't call you Mr. Perfect, got it. He smiled, and this time it reached his eyes. At home that night, I asked Ryan if he thought I'd been too dramatic, too severe, too slow to forgive, too quick to judge, all the twos I collect like pantry staples. He kissed my forehead and said, you were exact. If I were to boil this story down to a single sentence I wish I'd learned earlier, it would be this. You can love someone and still not let them live in your house. And if I were to ask the internet one last time, AITA for kicking out my sister after she tested my boyfriend, I think I know your answer. More importantly, I finally know mine.